They laughed when the single-dad janitor pulled into the glass tower parking lot in a rusted Mustang that sounded like it might fall apart at any second. The CEO didn't just laugh, he mocked him in front of everyone, calling the car junk and the man useless. But none of them knew that under that faded hood was an engine worth more than the entire building behind them. And when that janitor finally turned the key, it wouldn't just start a car. It would start the collapse of a $2 billion ego. Every morning at 5:12 a.m., Daniel Carter parked his old Mustang behind the corporate tower, far from the polished executive cars. The paint was peeling, the headlights were foggy, and the engine growled like it carried decades of frustration. To everyone else, it looked like a junkyard survivor. To Daniel, it was the only thing he had left from a life he lost. Daniel was a single father. His 8-year-old son, Noah, slept on the couch at home because Daniel had given him the only bed. Every night before work, Daniel left a note on the fridge reminding Noah to lock the door and finish his homework before school. He worked nights cleaning offices that smelled like money and power, scrubbing floors beneath people who never learned his name. The CEO of the company, Victor Hale, was everything Daniel was not. Confident, loud, ruthless, Victor built his reputation by humiliating others publicly. He believed fear created loyalty. That morning, Victor arrived early for a board meeting and noticed Daniel's Mustang parked crookedly near the service entrance. Victor stopped, smiled, then laughed loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Is that thing even legal?" Victor said, pointing. "Looks like a museum piece." Executives chuckled. Assistants looked down. Daniel kept his head lowered, gripping his mop tighter. Victor walked closer, circling the car like a predator. "You know, Carter," he said after reading the name badge, "this junk perfectly matches your job. Old, loud, disposable." Daniel felt the words hit harder than he expected. Not because of himself, but because Noah loved that car. It was the only place Daniel ever smiled anymore. "I clean floors," Daniel said quietly. "That's all." Victor smirked. Exactly. What Victor didn't know was that Daniel once designed engines for aerospace companies. He didn't know Daniel helped develop experimental propulsion systems before his wife died, before medical bills crushed his career, before grief made him choose survival over pride. He didn't know the Mustang wasn't junk, it was a prototype shell hiding a custom-built engine Daniel had spent 10 years perfecting in silence. Later that day, the building lost power. The emergency generators failed. A critical product launch was hours away. Panic spread across the executive floor. Victor shouted orders. Engineers scrambled. Nothing worked. Then someone remembered the janitor. "His car," an intern whispered. "I heard it sounds different." Victor scoffed. Until he had no choice. He marched down to the parking level and found Daniel sitting in his Mustang, eating a cold sandwich, reading a school permission slip Noah had forgotten to sign. "You," Victor snapped, "get that thing running. We need power." Daniel looked up slowly, calm, tired, unafraid. "You said it was junk," Daniel replied. Victor clenched his jaw. "Can it do something, or not?" Daniel folded the paper, placed it in his pocket, and opened the hood. And everything changed. When Daniel turned the key, the Mustang didn't roar, it awakened. The sound that followed wasn't noise. It was precision, and in that moment, the CEO realized the man he mocked held the power to save, or destroy, everything he'd built. The engine started smoothly, quietly, confidently. No smoke, no shaking, just raw controlled force. Every executive froze. Engineers stared in disbelief as their devices lit up again. Daniel connected a custom power transfer system he had built himself, using components scavenged and re-engineered over years. The Mustang fed energy into the building's systems, stabilizing servers, restoring communications, saving the launch. Victor watched in silence as his company survived because of the man he humiliated. Later that evening, Victor summoned Daniel to his office. The tone was different now. Softer, uncertain. "You built that engine," Victor said. "Yes." "Why are you cleaning floors?" Daniel hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because floors don't ask why your wife died. Floors don't care if your son cries at night. Floors don't judge you when life takes everything." Victor looked away. "I want to buy that engine," Victor said. "Name your price." Daniel shook his head. "It's not for sale." Victor frowned. "Do you know what that technology is worth?" Daniel smiled for the first time. $2 billion. At least. Silence filled the room. "What do you want?" Victor asked. Daniel stood straighter. "Respect. A future for my son. And a chance to build without being treated like I'm invisible." The board approved a partnership within hours. Daniel became head of innovation. The Mustang stayed parked outside, not as junk, but as a reminder. Weeks later, Noah stood beside his father in the same parking lot. He touched the Mustang's hood proudly. "They don't laugh anymore," Noah said. Daniel nodded. "Because they finally listened." Victor later resigned, not because he was fired, but because he realized leadership wasn't about power. It was about seeing people before they proved their worth. Daniel never changed the car's appearance. He wanted the world to remember something important. Never judge a man by what he drives. Never measure value by titles. And never mock what you don't understand. Because sometimes, the quietest engine carries the greatest power.